All right, so we're going to start talking about cartooning today. So some of the things to understand when we're cartooning, let's see if we can focus this, is that our goal is to keep things simple and to keep things clear. The ultimate goal is to tell a story, and the art comes secondary to that. You can make the art as complex as you want, but we want to have simplicity and clearness. We want to be able to repeat our character designs over and over again in different positions and from different angles. So we don't want to have to spend hours every time we draw it. So it's a good idea to keep it simple, especially in the beginning, but we also want it to be clear which characters are which from one panel to another. So what we're going to do is some exercises today. We're going to start by just kind of brainstorming facial features, and then we're going to move on to drawing heads and bodies. And I'm going to be focusing on keeping things very simple today. If you have more experience, feel free to make them a little more complex, that's fine, but keep in mind you're going to have to be drawing these characters multiple times, so keeping them simple can be really useful. So we're going to start off today by drawing eyes. We're just doing eye brainstorm. We're trying to come up with as many different eye ideas as we can. So you might think about like cartoon characters you're familiar with, what their eyes look like, and kind of make variations based on that. That's kind of a good way to help get through the brainstorm. 5 minutes is going to be a little bit of a challenge. It's okay if it starts to taper off. We want it to be a little bit longer period than we're comfortable with, so that we're forced to maybe come up with more creative solutions towards the end. So let's get started. For the eyes, we're mostly going to be working with variations on circular shapes. I'm going to start the timer. You can draw along with me. We want to get 5 minutes of eyes. I'm going to do a full sheet so I can draw big. Feel free to do a single sheet or a half sheet, however many eyes you get. It's okay to squeeze this together. All right, so let's get started. So you might start by thinking about just variations on this circular shape. So you might stretch the circle out. You might make it taller. You might make it narrower at one end and get bigger at another end. Do Simpsons style eyes. Although Simpsons usually overlap. Anything like that. You can add irises, you can add eyebrows, you can set your own level of complexity. But again, a lot of times keeping things simple is useful. Maybe think about glasses. If you get stuck coming up with eyes, I bet you could do a whole set of 12 different glasses versions. That would work. You might also include some eyebrows on some of them. You can also do like lines around the eyes. A lot of times we see this kind of cut off eye shape, this very SpongeBob-esque. You can make your eyes more cartoony or go a little more realistic. Totally up to you. Another thing to think about is maybe try to draw eyes that are expressing different emotions. So maybe we have some surprised eyes. Tall eyebrows, real round eyes. These eyes are a little worried. We might think about trying to make different types of people with the eyes. Add some lashes, that type of thing. Think about like different makeup effects maybe. Maybe we have a thick upper lid. Maybe we do some big teary eyes. Big pupils, really emphasize those highlights. Make the eyes look a little wet. You can practice making the eyes kind of facing different directions a little bit. Maybe this is turned to the side, so this one's a little closer and we draw it a little bigger. Kind of looking off that direction. All right, that's 5. All right, so next we're gonna do noses. I think noses we'll just spend 3 minutes doing. Noses, I think they're a little less diverse than the eyes and the mouths, so we'll just spend 3 minutes doing noses. So let's kind of break down the nose first, and then we'll do a nose storm. So basically for the nose, we've got the bridge coming down, and then we've got the tip, right? And then we've got these 2 nostrils on each side. And so we can decide which parts of that we want to draw. Noses are really tricky because a lot of these edges we see here are actually like really soft contours. They're gentle edges where there's just kind of a curve. So you don't always necessarily need to draw a hard dark line to represent a nose. You can represent noses really simply. You can do just kind of a simple kind of round nose. You can do just nostrils. You can do like a kind of L shape. There's a lot of different ways to represent noses. So you can kind of decide what works for you and the level of complication you want. So let's do 3 minutes of noses. Think about doing them from the front, from the side. Think about focusing on different parts of the nose in your design. All right, so let's do 3 minutes of noses. Do kind of a big bulbous nose here. If you get stuck brainstorming, feel free to look up at the noses I've drawn and do your own version of one of those. That'd be fine. A big part of doing cartoons is kind of exaggerating things. So feel free to kind of exaggerate, make things look sillier than they would in real life. That'll also help your characters to be more recognizable. If I want to represent that bridge, I can do kind of a one-sided thing here. I can either draw the end of the nose real simply like this, without showing nostrils, or I could do something like this, where I do a little nostril here, then go down in the middle, a little nostril over here, kind of the wings on the side. All of these read pretty well as noses. You might do some from the side. Cartooning is a great place to experiment with like doing really exaggerated stuff like big honking noses. things of that nature. If we want to keep it simple, we could just do like a simple nose. Make it face sideways all the time and keep it real easy. Do kind of a loop like this, kind of a Cabbage Patch nose. All of these will work on cartoons really easily. Let's see, what else can we do? Let's do kind of a wider nose. Do a wide, simple nose, just like this. All right, so there's lots of different ways to do this. So things to think about is how silly can you make a nose look, right? How simply can you draw a nose? What's a way you can draw a really fast and easy nose? And kind of decide what version you want to go with. We can just emphasize different parts and decide what we like. Let's get a couple more in. Let's do something strange. Let's do like a pointy nose. All right. There we go. That one's a weird one. It's kind of broken. Got a little Owen Wilson nose here. What do you think, Owen? Wow. All right. So here's our noses, 3 minutes of noses. All right, next we'll move on to mouths. Okay, when we're drawing mouths, we want to think about expression. When we're drawing eyes, we also want to focus on expression. So that can be a good approach to this. So the basic mouth structure, you're gonna have lips. Let's write what we're doing, mouths. Okay, we're gonna have lips around the mouth. Gonna be an opening. You have tongue in there, and you have teeth. All right, so you can decide which of those parts you want to include when you draw your mouths. And you can simplify or you can make it complex. It's up to you. One of the things I recommend is that you don't come in here and draw like individual teeth, because that can be kind of a challenge because you have to count how many there are, and they oftentimes look a little weird. So I would suggest kind of representing teeth more as like a solid block like this. There's some teeth. There's a tongue coming out. It's terrible. Let's redraw that. That's okay. Let's draw mouth. All right, so if we were drawing teeth, kind of coming down and drawing teeth as a block is generally kind of a better way to do it. And then you can add just some minor breaks between the teeth. That can be kind of easier and more effective than trying to draw in every single tooth. All right. So let's do 5 minutes worth of mouths. A good way to kind of generate ideas for this is to think about different expressions and try to draw them, but also think about different ways of representing the mouth. Which of these parts do you want to include? You don't need all of them. Most cartoons don't have lips, right? You may not have teeth or tongue in every mouth you draw. So practice including different elements from this kind of complete diagram, this crude diagram I've drawn. Think about how to incorporate different elements from that into different mouth designs. So let's go ahead and do 5 minutes of that. Let's do like a surprised mouth. Oh, if you want, you can put the fangs on there too. I just love drawing the little fangs on. And, you know, normally we'd shade all this in dark, but I'm not going to worry about that too much since we're trying to kind of brainstorm ideas, right? But that's the idea. Let's do a happy mouth. Excuse me, I'm sorry, you guys. Let's do kind of a big, wide mouth. Have a big toothy grin. Let's have an angry mouth. Sometimes you get like these angry mouths and it's just open on one side like this. And we'll represent the teeth with just a little plus sign like this. It's like gritted teeth right here, right? You can also do similar kind of one-sided thing. Maybe we have a little smirk. Real simple kind of smirk, side mouth. Maybe you want to do a tongue hanging out. We do like a wiggly lip, make it look scared. What else can we do? Do a sad mouth. Maybe there's like a simple sad mouth there. Maybe there's one that's really sad. Mouth agape. So a lot of times cartoonists or illustrators will do sheets like this. They just do kind of a million variations on facial feature or poses or like different types of builds of bodies, you know. And it's great practice for kind of getting a variety of things. And then you can draw on those later for reference sheets. So that can be really useful. This looks a little strange. Maybe I'll add kind of an upper lip here. Again, I'm not adding a lot of lips on these, but if you want to have lips, you can add lips to all of yours. Just trying to keep mine simple to start off with. A couple variations that are maybe a little more complex, but mostly keep it simple. All right. There we've got a brainstorm sheet full of mouths. Next we'll do ears. All right, so I think the ears are sort of difficult to remember the anatomy we're looking for on them and keep it in my brain. I don't know if that's just a problem for me or if other people experience that. We're gonna do 2 minutes on ears here. But it's complex anatomy, but you can actually get away with representing it fairly simple. So let's kind of look at the parts of the ear here. So you've got a big thing that kind of curves around like this. You may have attached lobes that just attach right into the skin, or you may have curved lobes. So that's kind of the outer edge. And we've got kind of the inner pit of the ear. So you have a kind of a ridge up here that kind of goes around the outer rim. And then you have, this kind of comes down to here. You have like a little, almost like the end of a bone shape right there. And then you have kind of a Y shape right here. So again, with cartooning, we want to kind of simplify this probably. If you're really experienced in advance, feel free to make your cartoons as complex as you want, but starting out, it's a good idea to keep things simple. So yeah, let's go ahead and go through our brainstorm here. Boom. We can represent ears as simply as something like this, and this will probably read just fine. You can also add some interior. How you do the interior is up to you. You could do just like kind of a squiggle and totally get away with that. Let's see. Or I can get a little more complex. That's an option too. It's just kind of up to you. Let's try some other methods. You might do something like this. You can stylize the ears. That seems good, right? All of these would probably look fine on a cartoon. We don't, again, need to get it super complex. You can do different styles of ears if you want. If you run out of ideas, you can do a little elf ear. You can get away with almost anything in these ears, as long as you're consistent with what you do. Let's try to do like a more complex version. Sort of more realistic, but keep it as simple as we can. Pretty good. This is just about finding the right balance for you between complexity and visual appeal. And you can stylize them. Let's do a long ear. Let's not forget about all the different options we have for how we alter these. I'm going to do one ear facing the other direction, so I'm a wild man. Let's see, one last ear. Do a bizarre ear. Some sort of fantasy creature ear. All right, so there's our ears. All right, so now we've brainstormed through our eyes, our noses, our mouths, and our ears. Now let's start drawing some heads. All right, so next thing we're going to do is some heads. So we're just going to brainstorm heads for cartoon characters. What I think we should do is start off with some basic shapes. So let's start off with a circle. All right, let's do a couple of variations on our circle here. So let's do just a regular circle. Let's do a tall circle. Let's do a wide circle. All right, so now let's start adding facial features to him. So actually, let's go, let's see. Let's go ahead and start adding facial features. So you can take your brainstorm sheets here that you did earlier, kind of look for facial features on there. That's totally fine. Let me see. Gotta grab my other one, hold on. Oh, that's all right. Okay. So what we want to do is start adding facial features. You can use your brainstorm reference sheets from earlier. You might think about like what kind of character you want to make, or just kind of doodle new people to start. But you're just going to add like facial features, just like we did before. So one thing we also want to think about is having an interesting silhouette. So we might want to take this basic shape here and make it a little more interesting. Kind of have a cheek and a chin poking out here. Maybe another cheek over here to balance that out. Maybe we give this guy a hat. He kind of looks like a robber or some kind of thug. Give him a little hat, because as we know, robbers and thugs always wear hats, right? There we go. All right, let's look at this guy here. Let's One of the things we can do is start drawing guidelines to help keep our facial features kind of lined up. So let's make this guy, he's going to be looking over a little bit to the left so we can practice using some of these guidelines here. All right. Oh, crud. I spilled my Red Bull all over the floor. That makes me super sad. All right. So these guidelines just help us sort of orient our facial features, so we could use this horizontal line to place the eyes here. So usually this eye that's a little closer will be slightly larger than the other one. Let's give this guy a big old nose here. And we'll give him a big mustache. Again, when we go back in and we start finalizing our contour on the outside, we like to make it a little more interesting. So let's make the cheek come out a little bit. Might put a little bit of fold up here on the brow. Kind of bring this up. You can also use this guideline here where the eyes are. That'll be where the top of the ear is as well. We don't really need to worry about placement too much when we're cartooning, but it's a good introduction to the idea. And maybe we'll give them kind of a diminished chin here. All right, now you can draw your own. You can copy mine if you want, but you can also invent your own. The basic idea is, using these shapes and turning them into heads. So do your own thing if you want. This one's got kind of a Stewie Griffin thing going on, but let's move away from that. We don't want to steal too much. So how can we contrast that? Let's some eyes like this. Funny looking nose. This guy's a vampire maybe or something, I don't know. So, you might be thinking about a story you want to tell and the characters that might need to be involved in that. But another way to approach this is just kind of brainstorm characters. And then you can kind of think about what kind of story they might be involved in. So you can work at it from either end. Add a chin on there. Don't forget his ears. Give him sticky out ears. All right. So yeah, feel free to make your own, but let's do some more variations. Let's do kind of more of a triangular shape. So I think a pure triangle is going to look a little weird for a head, but if we alter it a little bit, we can make something that looks pretty normal. We're going to make a cool dude here. Let's draw that eye line going across, and then the center line for the face. We're going to have this guy almost looking straight to the side. We'll come in. We're going to give this guy sunglasses. This is going to be a cool dude. This is going to be a dude with 90s tude. These are the kind of role models I grew up with. Dudes with 90s tudes. In order to have 90s tude, you definitely need some sunglasses. So we're going to give him some sunglasses. Pop an ear on there. Oh, you know what this guy needs? He needs a goatee. He's happy. He's digging life because he's got 90s tude. It's almost got kind of a Shaggy from Scooby-Doo vibe now, huh? He may not have as much 90s tude as I had originally hoped for, but, it'll work. All right, now let's draw someone else. Let's try another triangle shape. do like kind of an upside down triangle. All right, we're gonna make this guy looking straightforward. Here will be the eye line. Here's the center line for the face. You have this guy, wee little beady eyes. This guy, despite his wide sort of jaw, he's gonna have a thin little nose. Thin, pointy little nose. And we'll give him a smile like this. Oh yeah, look at this guy. I don't know what's going on with his hair situation. It's not good news. Give him some jowls. Ears start at about eye level and end at about nose level, but again, when you're cartooning, you can alter that a little bit, not a big deal. Also experiment with some square shapes. We're gonna give this guy a big forehead, kind of a 5 head. Let's do the eye line kind of going across here. Center line like this. Oh, that might not be the center though. That could be problematic. There we go. Give him some eye wrinkles. Well, this guy looks like a tough guy. And give him kind of flared nostrils, make him look angry. I mean, with such a square head, he's probably a tough guy, right? We'll bring that head in a little bit. Yeah, so there we go. We got some head brainstorms. All right, now let's talk about drawing bodies. Let's flip this over. I changed my mind. Let's talk about one other thing first before we move on from the heads. One of the things we like when we draw cartoons, or just in character design generally, is when a character has an interesting silhouette. That can be one of the things that really helps define a character in addition to like facial features. But an interesting silhouette will define somebody. So let's try to do that. Let's start with kind of a almost a heart-shaped base here. All right. Let's add to the back here. I'm thinking we'll have like a ponytail back here. So that sticks out well. That's a nice silhouette element. And then maybe we'll do a chin. Lips. Oh, gotta get in there with my detail grip. I don't like that. So let's see, how can we make this more interesting? Let's stick bangs out a little bit. Oh, that's a good idea. We'll get bangs. We'll have a nose. Oh, this one looks angry. Terrible. Listen, you guys, I'm gonna level with you. Cartooning's not my strong suit, not by a long shot. but I'm doing my best. Hopefully this gives you some ideas. This lady's not pleased. Got a lot of nose there, eh? That's all right. You don't discriminate. All right. It's kind of the fun thing about cartooning. No matter how wonky your style is, it can work for a cartoon. You got like a little kid. It's feeling more little kid to me now, but that's okay. Maybe we'll give her 2 big old ponytails. We're just sketching out here. When we do the inking, we can focus more on details. Oh yeah, that looks like a bratty kid. Give her a second ponytail. Now she has pigtails. That's weird though when you think about it. If there's 1, it's a ponytail. If there's 2, it's a pigtail. Pigs don't have 2 tails. Oh, that turned out all right. It's not terrible. Again, we're just brainstorming ideas. I could do a new version of this. It looks all clean and pristine and wonderful. That's totally fine. Right now we're just brainstorming. So yeah, we can polish these up and refine them. Anyway, so that's kind of the idea for brainstorming the heads there. I'm going to have you guys take a little time to brainstorm heads. So pause the video and brainstorm out a sheet of these. Maybe about, say 15 minutes. All right. So maybe brainstorm some heads for a little bit, pause it, and come back in. We'll talk about drawing bodies. All right, so same basic idea for drawing bodies. We just kind of want to combine shapes. So we might think about combining matching shapes. So let's revisit that kind of elongated circle. And then let's add like a similar sort of body shape here. Let's give him a little bit of a tumbo though. Yeah, that's kind of fun. This is getting a little more bean shaped, but similar sort of long circle shape. And let's draw in a face. So let's do the eye guidelines. Let's have him kind of looking, he's gonna be looking this way, but not straight on. It's not gonna be a profile shot. It'll be kind of a 3/4 is what we call this. Something like that. Let's see, I should draw another female-ish character because we don't have very many of them. But this is gonna be like an old granny. So let's see, she's probably gonna have like kind of thin, really embellished kind of eyebrows here. I'm gonna make this one coming off because that's a thing you can do with cartoons. I'm gonna make her have real squinty eyes. So we kind of want to match the angle of that eye. We can use the guidelines as reference for that. Let's give her like a sticky outy nose. That's fun. She's an older lady, but she's still into getting all dolled up. Give her a little lipstick. Maybe we'll turn this into a beehive hairdo. That's kind of a good shape for it. I feel like it fits this lady's general vibe, right? All right, I'll give her a little ear here with a little earring. Kind of make the hairdo come down like this, I think. There we go. Maybe we make this silhouette a little more interesting, get that brow ridge, cheek come down to here. Maybe we have a protruding chin, something like that. That's pretty decent. I'm all right with her. All right, and then we got this body. So arms and legs we can address in multiple ways. If we want to keep it simple and easy, we can kind of give her some spaghetti arms. So we want to get away from the spaghetti arms when we start working on more realistic stuff. But right now, for the cartooning, that's totally fine. Give her a purse. this arm down here. Oh, I'm doing more spaghetti arms. That's right. Sorry, spaghetti arms. I'm drawing an elbow on the spaghetti arm. Spaghetti arms and spaghetti legs don't need elbows because they're just flexible all the way through. They're not something real people typically have, but with cartoons, it's totally allowed. And then we'll give her some legs. With the legs, we want to make sure that her center of gravity, which is kind of right here, is positioned between the 2 feet, or else it's going to look like she's balanced weird. Okay, so do a little bit of a spaghetti leg going like this. I'm going to make the foot kind of on its toes like that. And we'll have another one. Oh, maybe she has high heels. Let's do high heels. She's still getting dolled up. So we'll give her some high heels. Yeah, that's good. All right. She's probably wearing a skirt. Give her some boobs. We can be silly with it because we're drawing a cartoon. Yeah, that's perfect. She looks lovely, doesn't she? She's walking her little dog. Her dog looks like a little Ewok. Yeah, beautiful. So let's do one more. I'm going to do kind of more of a realistic arm on this. If you want to go full realism when you're doing these, that's totally fine. It's going to take you a little longer, so be mindful of that and kind of plan accordingly. But, you know, if you're there, if you can draw realistic anatomy well, feel free to do that. This is just kind of give you some intro level ideas so that we all have something that we can work with. All right, so let's see. So let's do a big guy. Let's kind of contrast some shapes. I'm going to do a big, blocky. Actually, let's do, since we're doing a big guy, let's do a leg day skipper. That's always kind of fun. So when we're doing characters, one of the things we might want to do is kind of exaggerate proportions a little bit to make them look like certain archetypes, right? This guy's going to be a big, beefy dude. So part of that we can do is kind of make the bottom half a little thinner, make it a little lighter. Let's see for his head. I'm going to do kind of a half circle head. He's kind of looking like a robot now, but we'll try to get him out of that. Let's go in and kind of design our guy. I'm going to give him a kind of small face down here. There's going to be my eye line. He's going to be the center line for the face. You don't need to worry about these lines and if you don't want to, but you can start practicing with them if you'd like. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. This guy's going to be real interesting looking. I'm going to bring the head down a little bit, I think. Kind of like that. And give him kind of a flat top. Make that bottom jaw stick out a little bit. Make the silhouette a little more interesting. Give him a little bit of a cheekbone there. Pull this back. I feel like I want to make him look a little angrier. To make him look a little angrier, I'm going to angle the eyes in like this. I doubt that any of you ever played Mega Man, but he's starting to look like one of the Mega Man boss robots. That's okay, though. I'll give this guy a suit. We'll practice that. A little collar like this. Kind of a box shape for the tie. and it's going to kind of spread out like this. Do a lapel. Yeah, this is like a big boss man. Let's see. I have to check my pants to see which side it crosses over. So on men's clothing, this side over here, the left side is going to overlap the right. On women's clothing, it usually goes the other way. On unisex clothing, it'll probably favor the left over right. All right, I'm gonna give him arms. So this time I'm gonna do non-spaghetti arms, so that means elbows. You're doing non-spaghetti arms. Upper arm and forearm are gonna be straight, right, and rigid. It's gonna bend strictly at the elbow. And I'd say when you're doing this, don't worry too much when you're drawing it in about getting everything perfect where you want it. Just kind of position everything and move everything around. Then when you're inking, you can be a little more careful about how you do the lines on there. What do I want to do with this arm? It's like acting. You have to figure out what to do with the arms. Just put it down here. When you can't think of the right choice to make, don't make any choice at all, I guess. That's right. Not a very good art motto. And let's give him some pants. So we're going to give him some non-jelly legs as well. I'm going to make him kind of just standing in a more docile way. So I'm going to do this leg first. Skinny legs. Do a little bit of a bent leg on this one here. A little bit of a contrapposto stance. Contrapposto means there's more weight on one leg than the other. It is a good stance for people who are being arted because it makes the body look kind of dynamic and interesting instead of kind of rigid and static. I'll erase that out. All right, so let's do some characters. Let's do another 15 minutes. Just having you, I feel like that elbow needs to move up. Sorry. Just having you design characters. So let's pause this for 15 and just kind of fill the sheet with as many different characters as you can. And then we'll come back and we'll ink some of these guys. So I want to choose good characters for inking. I want to kind of pick my best ones because they're going to turn out the best. So I think I'm going to use this guy here. I like this guy. He's kind of my favorite over here. So when I go in, I want to kind of think about opportunities to add detail and interest to my design here. So I'm going to give him some eyebrows there. I'm going to give him a little bit of a wrinkle up on the bridge of his nose here. Bring this down around here. That's pretty good. Bring this out. I'm going to add some more forehead wrinkles. So he ended up looking a little older. I want to be subtle with the wrinkles. We can add more if we want to later, but for now, let's just take it easy on him. And give him a little dent in his forehead, or in his head. I don't know why, I think it's funny. You can do some kind of little ear design in here if you want. I'm gonna maybe lower his lids down a little bit, give him some expression. So when you're inking, I think it helps to always be thinking about how you can make improvements to your original pass and try to make it a little more interesting. So, for example, for the bottom of the mushroom, or the mustache here, mushroom. This is kind of mushroom shaped, I guess. It's hard to talk and draw at the same time. You'll understand when you're older. But I might make the bottom edge broken, you know? It's a little scruffier. It's not perfectly manicured. Might add some lines in here. But you can see, I'm going to add a lower lip kind of poking out right here, that by kind of thinking about ways to make the ink line more interesting, I can add a lot more character than to my original sketch. I take a sketch that's kind of meh into something that's like pretty interesting and could be usable for a character. And that's kind of the idea here. So we also have markers for this. So I've got these just kind of grayscale markers to demonstrate with. But you might want to add a little shadow. That'll definitely punch things up. So I'm going to add just this medium gray, I think. Let's test it out first to see. That's pretty dark. I don't know if I want to go that dark. So I'm actually going to use my light gray here. Some of these gray markers can surprise you and be darker than you're expecting. If it's lighter, it's not a big deal. You can go over it again. But if it's darker, then that can be really hard. It can really wreck your images pretty quickly. So always test them out. Have a scrap piece of paper to test on, or use your sketchbook. So we're going to think about the light coming down from up and on the left side here, kind of shade, underside and right side. So these markers are kind of nice because they have a brush tip, which means it's flexible and pointed. And by changing the amount of pressure you apply, you can alter how thick the line is. So I'm just going to add a little bit of shadow to everything that is on the right-hand side or facing downwards. I'm going to add shadow inside the ear here because that's going to be kind of hidden away. And just a little up here. Just a small touch of shadow you can see makes it look a lot more dynamic and interesting. Now that I've added the ink, it almost looks like I kind of know what I'm doing. So you can see that that lining with the ink is a really powerful tool to use. Let's do this girl too. She seems interesting. So again, I want to think about how to make the line more interesting. So the end of the pigtails here, I'm going to rough up a little bit. And you don't necessarily always rough up the end of the mustache or the hair. It just kind of depends what kind of character you're trying to get. If they are like immaculately groomed, maybe you have an ultra straight line there. All right, I've got some nonsense with the hair texture going on here I'm going to try to fix. So I think we've got a part between the bangs and the rest of the hair that goes kind of like this. I'm going to kind of break this line up again as well. Bring this out here. Oh, shoot. My lights went off. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Sometimes the lights go off in here. There's a motion detector, so if I'm not moving in front of it every once in a while, after about half an hour, the lights go out. I've been here for half an hour after school suffering to make this demo for you kids, because I am a wonderful teacher. All right, so sink this in. I want to make this lip stick out a little bit. I want to make her a little madder. Just add more character. I'm going to try to make her nose look a little more like a kid nose. I'm going to give it a big ball on the end like that. Oh, that's maybe a little too much. That's okay though. All right, and so let's redo this hair texture. I want to kind of make it follow the pattern of the ponytail or the way it's brushed. So the ponytail ones are going to be going kind of straight back like this, right? That was maybe a little too much back there. That's okay. These ones are going to go straight back. So this is going from the part or from the edge of the hair here towards the pigtails. And then this one will go straight forward with a little bit of curve in it like this. All right, let's add a little shadow. Let's have the light coming from this side on her. You might have kind of define that jawline there with the shadow. That works. And under here. So I kind of dip down right here because of the eye socket. Might add a little bit of shadow right here, kind of at the middle of the part, And then kind of a little bit of shadow back here. Something like that. She's looking a lot better. I might go in with the darker one. This isn't fully black, but it's kind of a darker gray. Just get a little touch in there for where it's real dark. Yeah, this looks like the kind of little girl that will beat you up and take your lunch money. I like it. All right, so that's the idea with inking. Let's do one full character back here. Let's do this lady. One of the things that we'd like to do when we cartoon, when we get the opportunity, is to make a solid black spot. Just kind of in each frame, if you can pick out an area to just make solidly black, I think that adds a lot more dynamics to the characters. I'm just going to color that in. I probably should have penned it in first, lined it, but that's okay. We'll go back in and do that. All right, so let's go in here. So with her beehive hairdo, I'm going to kind of add some curves in it to make it look like it's kind of wrapping around and around and around. I don't really understand how beehive hairdos work, to be completely honest. I don't think you just wrap your hair around and around and around like that, but she's a cartoon lady, so maybe she does. All right, some nice curves in here. She looks a little bit like my babysitter from when I was a child. That's one of the things also when you're drawing, you can accidentally traumatize yourself. You have to be careful. Recreating my babysitter, it's a little traumatic. She wasn't the nicest. All right. Ooh, that nose got a little more pointy, and I do like it. She also seems like she needs a little beauty mark right there. I don't know why. She just looks like the type. Maybe could have colored that in instead of just blocking it black. That's all right. So yeah, if you just ink one of your own characters when you do this, I should have probably said that earlier. You can watch this or you can work along with me and ink your own. Either way is fine. I'm going to add kind of a little frilly collar to her because it seems like she needs it. Oh yeah, she's looking good. All right. I'm going to add an end to the sleeve. I'm going to make it like right there. Oh yeah, that's daring. You can add fingers if you want, or you can just kind of keep ball hands. Either way, remember it's about clarity, right? So as long as you are representing a hand, it doesn't matter if you have all the details. Just as long as it's understandable and it reads, you're good. I'm going to add fingers though. I'm adding a full 4. Direct contradiction to cartooning tradition. I'll put that about there. Let's darken in the strap. So for the skirt, it's not going to have like an even bottom. So I'm going to kind of make each of the pleats stick down a little bit more. A little bit of a curve maybe. That'll give it a little more of a skirt-like feel to it. You can erase out your pencil lines from behind if you want. I'm not going to worry about it so much. I'm going to kind of leave those. Make sure everything's dry before you get in there too crazy. Yeah, so the sketching out is just about figuring out the generalities of the whole thing. And then the inking is where you find the details. It's kind of a fun way to work because there's a little less pressure when you're drawing with your pencil. You don't have to worry as much. I'm gonna give this dog a little more character, I think. It's hard doing these demos. Sometimes things just don't go right. But this is actually feeling pretty good now that I'm getting the ink on there. So if you get discouraged when you're drawing, keep going. Try to get the inking done. Maybe it'll be better for you. Because this has really picked my drawing up quite a bit, I think. Here's his tail. I didn't have a tail earlier. It'd be a shame if this dog didn't have a tail. Fine pooch like this needs a tail for sure. All right, so there's our dog there. Okay, so let's add some shading to this. I'm gonna maybe go back in here, try to add a little more black. Ooh, I should be careful. Hey, I'm gonna show you another thing with these, right? They're double-ended. This end is like the detail end. It does not have the brush end, but the end's a little bit thinner, so it's easier to get smaller areas. Again, add some strong black in. Having some black really punches up the drawing. So I want to add some shadows, but I'm also going to add some tone to her dress. I'm going to make it kind of a gray. So I'll start by adding some shadows to her face here. You might do this up on the beehive too, especially on the left-hand side. So I'm drawing it as if the light's coming from the right. So yeah, I'm gonna add a little more here too. And then I'm gonna color the dress. So I'm just gonna tone the dress, and then I'm gonna come in with my darker gray to add some shadow. So when we're using the markers, we want to kind of think about what direction we make our strokes go. We don't need to be like super laborious about it, but having them go random is not usually the correct answer. We want to have kind of an order and method to it. So I'm kind of just moving my way up and down the dress, trying to line everything up so that the strokes have a flow that kind of follows the body here. That's not necessarily the only way you could go about thinking about this. You could do it side to side. That would be fine too. But I think if you have like some reason for what you're doing, it's going to make more sense than if you just kind of randomly choose. So now I'm going to use my medium dark to add some shadows in here as well. Ooh, that's strong. Got to be careful. Get the underside of her boobs. Sorry for saying boobs so many times in this demo. I normally avoid talking about anything like that, but I mean, it's just the easiest word. It's more awkward if I avoid saying it than if I say it, in this situation at least. All right, and I'm gonna add a little shadow to our dog here. Just a little bit. All right, so that's the idea. All right, so when you're done, you're gonna need to have a sheet of brainstormed eyes, mouths, noses, ears, a sheet of brainstormed heads, and a sheet of brainstormed full bodies. And then I'd like you to start inking heads and bodies. And what I wanna see is just kind of a sheet full of characters when you're done. Just get as many done as you can. After you have that done, if you would like to move on and do some character designs for your comic assignment, you can start working on those. We're going to be doing a comic, so if you want to design some characters, sketch them out. Or if you want to pick a couple from your brainstorm sesh to use, that would be fine too. Okay, so yeah, I want to see a sheet of heads, a sheet of characters. I want you to turn that in. I don't need all the facial feature brainstorms. You can keep those. All right, I hope that this was useful and informative and helpful. Like I said, cartooning is definitely not my strong suit. I do understand some conceptual things about it, but I have not put in a lot of practice. But hopefully it was enough to give you a good introduction and some ideas of where to go from here. All right, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.